Yeah, hello. In next 10 minutes time, I'll explain requirements collection and the scope definition process. Uh, if you are working in a construction project, the requirements are collected. 1 minute. If you're a construction projects, the requirements collection and the scope definition happens prior to signing the contract. But if you are in product development or IT related projects, detailed requirements collection and scope definition happens after signing the contract. That is because in construction, the engineering discipline doesn't allow for change, whereas in a product development and information technology projects, the engineering disciplines allows for change. So that is the reason. Plus, most of the product development projects, the scope is continuously, evolving. So it is practically impossible to define the scope upfront and then get into the project. Whereas in construction projects, the engineering discipline doesn't allow for rework or scope changes. It is expensive. So that is the reason why the scope is the requirements are fully elaborated and the scope is defined before the contract in construction projects, whereas for product development and IT and R&D kind of projects, detailed requirements collection and scope definition happens after signing the contract. So depending on from where you are coming from, you will be able to correlate. That's why I'm explaining this. Now, to collect requirements, the inputs are the project charter, which we already discussed. Project management plan, this also we discussed already. Then other project documents like the request for information, request for quotations, any other communications, the business case of the project. Then agreements, if any agreements are signed between consultants or subcontractors and the owner and with contract copy, and so all those things can be part of agreements. Then enterprise environmental factors, factors that is affecting the project from the environment in which the project has to operate, and the organizational process assets like the quality standards, the reusable components, those kind of thing. Plus the processes that must be followed. And enterprise environmental factors could be the government laws, the national holidays, the cultural impact, availability of labor, availability of manpower, availability of transportation, availability of bandwidth for high bandwidth for internet. So those things also are available for reference. And on top of it, we use our expert judgment, brainstorming, interviews, focus groups, questionnaires and surveys, benchmarking, document analysis, voting, multi-criteria decision analysis, affinity diagrams, mind mapping, nominal group techniques, observation and conversation, facilitation, context diagrams, and prototypes. The output is the requirements documentation and requirements traceability metrics. So of these tools and techniques, the most widely used tools and techniques are brainstorming, interviews are very widely used, questionnaires and surveys are very widely used, and benchmarking, if I want to, I can compare my product with a better product and then and learn the requirements very fast. A document analysis, maybe analyzing the request for proposals, request for quotations, the tender documents, all these things will help me to understand the requirements better. Voting, because there could be n number of requirements, so we have to validate. At that time we can use maybe voting also. Multi-criteria decision analysis, again, for each requirement we can give weightages for different parameters, and based on the sum total of the weightages we can prioritize them. Mind mapping is about ideation, so mind mapping tools are available. So it is a great way of capturing the brainstorming findings, or there is a great tool which will supplement the brainstorming exercises. The nominal group technique, it's about dedicated groups. Observation and conversation, just by observing the environment and conversing with people, you will get to know requirements. And facilitation, it's about facilitating the requirements. Then context diagrams also helps, and prototypes also helps. Sometimes in IT, prototypes are widely used. In building, modeling also are used to elicit requirements. Then we move on. Once the requirements are frozen, then we get into defining the scope. Now here it is about defining the product, it is about the drawings of the building, it is about the wireframes for IT projects. So again, charter, project management plan, scope management plan, project documents, requirements documentation, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets are inputs. The tools and techniques include expert judgment, data analysis, alternatives analysis, multi-criteria decision analysis, interpersonal and team skills, facilitation, and product analysis. So the tools and techniques, by and large, it is same for requirements elaboration and scope definition. And the output is the scope statement and the project documents updates. That means while defining the scope, we may have to go back and update the requirements documentation. We may have to go back and update the project plans and the charter if there are major impacts. So we discussed about the phase in which the contract is signed for construction project. Phase in which the requirements elaboration and scope definition is done. For construction projects, this always happens prior to signing the contract. That is the common practice. Whereas in IT projects, generally the requirements, detailed requirements collection and scope definition happens after signing the contract. Always the project charter is available to you for reference. Project management plan is available for us for reference. The project other documents like agreements and requests for quotations and requests for proposals and all other communications made with the customers, all those things are available for reference. And we can scan through the environment in which the project has to operate. That also will give us a lot of information. And the organizational process assets, it will give us information like lessons learned and stuff like that. Then the tools and techniques we saw, the expert judgment, questionnaires, surveys, and the rating of the requirements. These things are further elaborated in our page, that is www.pmri.in/pmbok. Thank you very much.